That's so rad.
Some days.
We have such a cool intro. And welcome to those who are watching. This is Unrestricted Humans podcast. And today I'm bringing it to this group because we're going to be watching a video on quiet quitting. That's right. It's our first reaction video. Get ready. What do you all have to say about that?
I'd say I might have pre-watched. We'll see what everybody else thinks.
Let's do it.
Ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Ooh, okay. And what do I need to say about this gentleman?
How'd you find the video?
Ward, and we found his video because it turned out to be pretty popular, so we wanted to do a commentary on it. How's that? And here we go. Oh, can you hear this? No.
This is across the country, and it's called quiet quitting. I don't know if you've heard of it, but if not, it's all good. We're going to break it down in today's video because it's not what it sounds like. It's not what it sounds like, but it's definitely out there. It's definitely happening. You might be doing it already. Let's talk about it.
All right. Well, first of all, let's just talk about what we think quiet quitting is.
You know, I think there's some common misconceptions out there about quiet quitting. And I'd argue if we even hear his definition, I'm not sure I agree with it. But I think it's a context difference. How we perceive things, how we understand things, where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure how new it actually is. I think we've just renamed the old, and there's probably a lot to explore around the things that we've tried and the results.
I like how enthusiastic he is right now. This still shot of him about what he's going to tell us about quiet quitting. Should we learn?
Find out.
So what is this quiet quitting everybody's starting to talk about? Now, if you're like me, you thought it was people who were like quitting their jobs, but like doing it real quietly, just not telling nobody, just not showing back up. But that's not what it is. I was surprised to find out that quietly quitting doesn't involve leaving your job. Quiet quitting is actually when you stay at your job, you keep your current job, but you just kind of do the bare minimum at your job. And that's why it's the opposite of hustle culture. Okay, before, for many years.
I got to start off the bat with, I suppose, I'm going to get a little, politically correct here, right? Because I suppose you have to put someone's picture there in terms of those that are quiet quitting, doing nothing. You have to put someone's picture there. But I laugh at some of the inserts that we see in this video. All right, so that's a definition of quiet quitting. What are y'all seeing now?
Disagree.
Disagree.
I think this is going to be one of those. I warned you guys. It's always dangerous when you have me watch a video. Part of the reason I jumped in and said, I disagree is no, there is quietly quitting that does happen. There are, I see it in a lot of small businesses, especially in the restaurant space. Somebody just is done washing dishes and they never show back up. So that is something that's actually out there and does happen. But also, I don't find it to be the opposite of hustle culture. I don't know that you can put those things up against each other. Hustle culture, this idea that everybody has to do their best and beat everybody else out and all of that. There is that element, but I'm not sure that it's something you really compare with quiet quitting, because the quit isn't always about the person themselves. It might be about the organization.
Nice. Do we want to go into our side by side and do a keep talking about, like, now that we heard it? Yeah, here we go. Quiet quitting. What'd you get from that? Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot, and so I've been doing some research on, is when the shift started happening in company cultures. So, like, one of my first super large clients, you knew that when you started there, you came out of college and you stayed there until retirement, and you were going to be taken care of. And there were people who could have retired, but they knew if they stuck around a little bit longer, their benefits would be better, or whatever it was. Like, you stayed until the end. They had beautiful golden handcuffs, some of the best in the industry in the 80s and 90s, to get those employees to stay forever. And they'd train them and they'd promote them. They'd do whatever they needed to maintain the employees. And then something started happening mid-90s. Like, benefits started being stripped off, and there were changes in leadership styles, which, more on that later. But we've now gotten to this place of gig economy where there's almost zero loyalty for the companies we work for. I mean, how many people do you know who've been at a company for their entire career? One single company.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I probably could count on my one hand, if that.
I know two.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Two. I used to know three.
Yeah.
One's no longer there. He knows who he is. But it's amazing, like, what has shifted in our environments that doesn't keep people staying.
Mm.
And it could be options.
Yeah. Mary, how about you? What do you Mary, I'm always curious what Mary is thinking, because she has such a great perspective on this stuff as well.
So when I entered the corporate world, there was sort of this expectation: you get to work before your boss, you leave after your boss. I sort of equate that to the, perpetual existence of the hustle culture. In a large corporation where and the hustle culture included, I mean, back in my day, it included dragging the suitcase-sized dumb terminal home to write code one character at a time over a dial-up connection. The quiet quitter was just as an example, the person in the foyer outside the cafeteria who every day at before 3:00, you go get your last cup of coffee before the cafeteria closed, and he was napping on those couches all afternoon, napping on those couches. It could have been that what he was asked to do was done. I didn't really understand it. I had tons of stuff to do. What I'll say is, whether or not in a large corporation that stuff actually related to value was there's that eye of the beholder. It was the eye of my manager to make that determination. I feel like quiet quitting has been around for a long time in different names and different forms. And, what changes is it's the dynamic of the ongoing evolving employment agreement. Fewer carrots, more sticks. Do I really want to work for you anymore? Less like a family. While the golden handcuffs can feel like handcuffs today, they actually felt like community and family. And, how many marriages came out of working for the same company? I mean, I knew 15 people who, 15 couples, 15 sets of people who, found their forever mate working in the same organization. But then you're right, like the benefits went down. The employment agreement shifted at the at the sort of will of the employer. So, so has quiet quitting really changed? The other thing that comes to mind with quiet quitting is, I don't, I'm sure you've heard the saying, it's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's been around forever. That's not my job. It's not within the scope of my job. And part of the employment arrangement has shifted to this dynamic of, as long as it's legal and ethical, anything's your job, whether you're skilled to do it or not. That's the HR. That's how HR will describe what your job is. You're hired for a specific role based on a specific skill set. You get thrown into a different role without training, without guidance, without leadership, without context. And the expectation, again, that carrot stick dynamic has shifted. And so now we have social media and the internet, and so it's not something we talk about around the water cooler. It's something we talk about online.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way, Mary.
Yeah. And you brought up married couples at work too. And that just brings in a whole nother dynamic of quiet quitting, but you're in a relationship at work.
Yeah, or your spouse gets laid off. Yeah. Like that. I mean, all of those, imagine all the scenarios, they've all occurred.
Yeah.
In one form or another. And how do you provide support for that spouse and continue that high level of commitment to your job?
Though, I think the other piece of it too, you're totally right about the spouse thing, because I know a ton of spouses who work for the same company and they met there. But the other thing that I've seen a lot of is the community that's built in some of these companies that do have that strong culture. They also set each other up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, my wife's friend is really cool. I think you'd really like her. And then happy first birthday to their son, right? Like if he's watching, he knows who he is. We got another one. But it's fascinating, the kind of relationships that are in those places. And I do think, though, that we assume quiet quitting is kind of in your face. That it is just my butt is in the seat. I will do exactly what is asked of me, and then I leave at 5. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think we can mentally check out. Mm-hmm. And we still do good work, like actual good work. Mm-hmm. But because our brains just like, I think I'm done, none of the innovation comes through. So we miss opportunities. Like our employees miss opportunities to do really, really fantastic things because they're still trying to be great at their job, but they're just not in it. Mm-hmm. And they're not going, what's next for us? Like, hey, ABC company, I'm a member of you and I want you to be ABCD company. I want to grow, or I want to lose the A. I don't want to keep the same. Something that was fascinating to me in this video is that he doesn't blame the pandemic for the collapse of the modern workplace and a lot of businesses and stuff. He said actually it accelerated it. And so it got me thinking. He brought in hustle culture. Well, the only thing that I know that can hustle is basically, Grok and Chat GPT, right? Like that's the real hustle, because they're fast. But that should be an expectation of technology or a machine. Should that be the expectation for our employees? Like I would argue, yes. So the pandemic was an accelerator of getting rid of antiquated business models, antiquated leadership styles. Because if quite a few of the companies, not all of them, of course, there were just things that went out because of restrictions and other things. Sure. But if their product management had been on point, if they would have been future focused, strategic, they wouldn't have been eaten up. There wouldn't have been the furloughs. I mean, it sucked for people. I had so many friends who got laid off or furloughed. And it was like, well, but couldn't you see that you needed to diversify 3-4 years ago to be ready for something like this? I mean, we went from the blue Nokia phone that barely had Snake to being able to play Oregon Trail on the second iPhone to now today I'm recording on one. Like, it's insane.
Hmm.
Where was your strategy?
I guess we should include in this conversation that the three of us, for those that don't know, are professional coaches. We're agile coaches, and we've worked with companies of all sizes, from your Fortune 50s, government agencies, small, medium-sized businesses, startups. And so we bring a level of understanding of what it's like to work both inside and outside of organizations for decades, and working with multiple generations of people. So top to bottom, multi-generation, bring a lot of different perspectives. And so we've come here today to have conversation about you, what it's like to be you, whether you're the business owner or you're an employee that shows up and is, both confronting this sort of undercurrent of quiet quitting that's going on.
I think there's a chance though for us in the quiet quit. Like beyond going, oops, I leave my company, or I have 10 employees, 50 employees, 5,000 employees, whatever it is. There's a chance for us to reverse it. And it's not just, I'm going to change the culture around here. I think that we have some opportunity in AI to reverse the quiet quit. Because so if you do go ahead and we need to add the link to this video to the bottom here on YouTube. But if you look at the rest of the video, he starts talking about the Great Resignation. So we're talking 2021. Everybody's like, I'm out. I'm done. Like November rolled around. It was time for the holidays. Nobody had gotten to spend time with their families because we were all like going back into the office. And people are just done. And it was a good message, truly. I mean, it was a really big opportunity to learn that employees expected something different. But we start looking at the workload of what's being put on employees and the ones left behind. So you furlough 25% of your staff. Guess what? All that work has to be done, but does it really provide value? And Mary, you brought up a good point. You did a lot of stuff. Was it valuable?
I think we can get into value. Do you want to keep going with going back to the video? Because it does get to these kind of dilemmas.
He does, but I think the one thing, since the video is 2 years old, like it was a pre-Chat GPT,
We should say that too.
Grok era, and so that's one of the things. Like, there's a lot of conversation. Well, there's two conversations happening right now from employees, at least very actively on LinkedIn. Is be afraid AI is going to take your job. That's the people peddling stuff to you. And then the other side is of the employee is going, oh no, could AI take my job? What do I do to make sure they can't? Well, I would say, oh my gosh, if your job isn't allowing you to be creative, look for opportunities. Like if you're not accessing the right side of your brain all day, instead of just staying in the left, AI could like take that stuff for you. You could turn into the innovator and let all of the other things, like the coding or whatever it might be, that an AI agent, is that the right phrase, Mary?
Intelligent agent? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. That an intelligent agent could save us time, make our workloads less so that we could access more innovation from here.
Yeah, we're going to do a segment in the near future when it comes to human intelligence, artificial intelligence, and then the integration of those different intelligence. And we got some experts are going to join us. I feel like it's going to be a really good conversation.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, I have a question. Have either of you ever quiet quit?
Well, so now it gets into like, what is quiet quitting, and what are some of the things that you would say are quiet quitting? That's what comes to my mind.
Well, he's skipping that answer, isn't he?
I have to say, I think everybody's had a day of quiet quitting. Have you ever gone into the office? I mean, I've gone into the office and you just procrastinate. Go find people to talk to when there is sort of like boring drudgery work to be done that really needs to be done, but it doesn't really need. I have to say that was one of the most interesting aspects of the transition from military to civilian, was someone asked you to do something and you probably had a week to do it. Like, it was the longest tail in the world. They weren't necessarily expecting it that same day in that immediate moment. And, so if you've got some time, and time is good, right? Like, time allows you that opportunity to do a first draft, to reflect, do a second draft, whatever that thing is, get some feedback, all of that. But, there's a leadership tactic of running in the room, dumping the tasks on the table, and then running out, not to be found again for another week. So
there's that piece too.
It leaves space, right, for, well, I mean, I know I could get this thing done in, 2 or 3 hours if I just like knuckled down. But what I really need right now is to find, reconnect. I don't know that that's necessarily quiet quitting, though. I think that's just part of being human, knowing when your energy is high. Does the definition of quiet quitting assume that we're robots that just do work 8 hours a day, churn out stuff 8 hours a day? Like, when do you do your best work? I do my best work at 9 a.m. Over a cup of coffee, and I can just kick it. But catch me at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and try to pin me down. It is willpower that keeps me, for that hour, between that 2 to 4 hour, between 2 to 4 p.m. 4 p.m. there's sort of like, if you have to stay late or do more or whatever, or there's some like overnight release or whatever it is after 4 o'clock, like the curtains part and the energy arrives. But 2 to 4 p.m., it's coffee and conversation time.
Mary, I worked with a team once. This is way before us, but they were told that they had to have a group huddle every day. They had to do, some planning and some things like that on a pretty regular cadence. And their managers were like, yeah, you need to get together every morning, 9:15, you need to be there. And the team started looking at it. No, they were energized and ready to like get going. They came in 7:30, 8 o'clock. They were early people. They would go to lunch around 11:30, and most of their work for the day had kind of just taken everything from them by the time they went to lunch. So they moved all of their huddles, all of their planning, all of that to the afternoon. And it was one of the, they figured it out on their own, and then their managers actually liked it because it wasn't an overlapping meeting where they had to go to see other things from other people. But they loved it. It was a great use of the energy that they did have, especially after lunch. Because, when they were planning, they were up, they had like stuff on the walls, moving Post-its around, talking about timelines. It was so much better.
David Marquet posted, I'm going to say it was on LinkedIn, something to the effect of, if you want people to do good work, share your intent. If you want people to just do stuff, like just tell them what to do. And I feel like this sort of goes to the, that idea of commander's intent. And we've lost that. You must have a stand-up every day. This is the practice. We're all going to do this practice in this very same way. And which is fine for an initial guidance, like I don't really understand, I've never done this before, try this on. What's the commander's intent in that? The intention is to gain alignment, understand where we're at, understand if we need to shift direction in service of achieving our goal, understand if someone else on our team needs support or guidance or help, understand if we need to work together on some things. but the intention at the end of the day is to deliver the goal, to deliver the value. And if that stand up, if that daily alignment doesn't work, like, I think about the team that sort of invented mob programming. I don't know if you've seen that. There's some videos, some really cool videos. Like they spent, I'm going to mess this story up, but they had some goal to deliver something huge within 12 months. I'm going to mess the time frames up too. And so they brought in a coach to work with this team, and the coach worked with this team, and they spent the first 3 months delivering nothing, just understanding how they best work together. They decided that they wanted to mob on things. So elements of mobbing include driver and navigators, include all of the elements of high performing teams, like the ability to check in and check out when you need to, the ability to pass, all of those characteristics. And they were able to deliver whatever their goal was. Like, I'm going to, again, make this sort of up, 3 months ahead of schedule, having started 3 months late because team efficacy was so high. Now, if they had been stuck in an environment where they were told every day you have to get together and every day you have to do this stand up and every day, like, you must follow these practices, instead of what's the intention? Find the ways to collaborate most effectively as a group of highly skilled adults, because this is the goal from a business perspective that I need you to achieve. And adults will rise to that challenge. And then, from just a plug for us as coaches, we create the containers and understand practices that help individuals and teams find out what works best for them.
Yeah. And also, I think there's a lot of, I'm working with a small business owner right now. We've been talking a lot about ego. Where are we standing in the way of our own businesses because of the things we believe about ourselves? And so when I say ego, I'm not necessarily meaning like, oh, I'm the smartest person in the room. I just mean like all the talk that we tell ourselves. So some of the conversations have been like, well, this guy takes too long to get work done. It's stuff that would take me 30 minutes. I don't get why it's taking him 2 hours. Well, have you asked him? No, I told him I needed it faster. Okay, what's that going to produce? You don't shorten a timeline, you teach. You ask clarifying questions. You don't set the intention is not speed crap. The intention is a thorough review, solid recommendations in a timely manner.
So what do you guys think about speed being the sort of primary characteristic of how leaders see team value? Like the fastest
totally.
teams are the best. Like, and I have, I can't even remember where the quote, I should really write this stuff down before we record, but the idea that, I have 2 AI teams and they deliver, 10 times faster than my human team does.
They should. They're machines. They should.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do they understand time? How do they have ethics? What if I'm working faster by stealing code from another company that just accidentally, had a data breach or something? What if I'm accidentally sharing patient names and violating HIPAA because of who has access to the AI model? Like there's so many things that make us a unique piece that unless AI can start having thoughts, feelings, and hormones, I don't think we really have to worry about being replaced.
Totally.
So
I think
We're 1 minute into the video, and I'm just looking at how much content we're producing. Just 1 minute.
Well, I think it's an important topic because it does beg the question as a small business leader, and we are small business owners as well. What are we doing to ensure quiet quitting isn't happening? As an enterprise person, as a CEO, CTO, CFO, what are you doing to make sure people aren't quiet quitting? Please tell me it's not an employee engagement survey, because oh my gosh, that would make me gag.
Yeah.
Because no, we all know those are not. Everybody, well, those are anonymous. No, they're not.
Right. Well, the other thing I thought of when you said, what are we doing, is that it's a collective we, not just someone in HR, someone who's running the business, but, asking around, and you'll get an understanding of when people know the definition of quiet quitting, they'll get an understanding of who is giving off those indicators. They used to show up and they're smiling and saying hello and really greeting people, and now they walk by me and their face is blank, and that's a flag. That something's going on in that person's life that's maybe even trending towards this quiet quitting.
Well, and Brian, I think that ties in beautifully with what Mary said earlier about the workplace. With you have a day, and that's okay, and it's not really quiet quitting, it's just being human. But instead of the we, where it's like you go sit with another coworker and at the end of a hallway and just chat for a minute, it's all done online. Like we're texting our friends or doing what else. Like we're losing the collective we at work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily, I won't argue. I haven't thought about it long enough to say that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a thing. And so I think we have to decide, do we want to work at a place that's a we, or do we want to work at a place that's an individual? And if that's the case, which I think both, it's an either or. But I haven't really seen that many good contracts. Like when you really dig into them and look at what they're based in, or as Mary mentioned the other day, or just a few minutes ago, about looking at the job description and then HR going, but, we'd have to really get good at that contract piece. This is the expectation. Here's the intention. It goes no beyond this. Nothing for you. You just sit your hours that are listed on that piece of paper and get your stuff done. And if there are plenty of people who'd be happy with a job like that. Use your brains, be very analytical, shut your brain off at the end of the day, turn on a different part of it and do something else. But there's also the people who want to be connected, want to feel community, want to explore things together. I'd argue those people are probably the majority.
There's so much more we could dive into. I mean, this is a pretty broad topic, and being with humans at the center, there's like no easy solution. No, there's only human solution, which means complexity. Yeah.
I really want to be like, it depends, but that would be so stereotypical, and I'm not going to do that. But it is very, very, it's a complex issue. And I think I caught myself immediately disagreeing with this guy with his definition of quiet quitting. And I was like, oh crap. Quiet quitting is not only a problem, but so darn broad. And so it just makes me wonder, like you said, Mary, without that intention, like what momentum are we losing? What sales are we losing? What good employees and skills are we losing? What creativity?
Yeah.
What patience?
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be really tough to like go into the weekend sitting with. What am I doing that's actually hurting momentum? How am I hurting my own business? How is my business hurting because of my behaviors, my quiet quitting? Is that a red flag? Like, should I be out? should I be applying for jobs? Thankfully, there are quite a few jobs out there right now. Oh, we need to write that down for a topic. Why are there so many jobs and so many people out of work?
That's a good one. So many jobs. Why? Question mark.
Put it in the notes app. But Brian, thank you for sharing this video, because I really do find it's important when we watch things like this. Like we have all these terms out there: quiet quitting, prompt engineer. I'm just trying to think of like all the buzzwords that are floating around LinkedIn and Facebook right now. But we've got those, and we've got all these videos, and we've got a couple of years of content on it. Because really, 2022, we were kind of getting back up out in the world. Things started happening again. But in those couple of years of content on it, there's a lot of room for a yes-anding or kind of yes-anding. It's great. It's just great to be able to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I think we got some stuff we can work with here. We do. And then provide that as something of a gift for others to take away.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yep.
Speaking of gifts for others, or just others in general, whoever's watching, please feel free to leave us comments below. You also know how to find us. Contact at unrestricted-humans.com. LinkedIn, Facebook. I finally got myself a Facebook, so if you want to be Facebook friends, we can do it. But if you're interested in any topic, have ideas, want to be a guest, more than happy to hear from you, as long as you're not a bot. Just kidding. I'd love it. I'd love having Chat GPT or Grok on. See what that would be like. That would be
we have a Grok. We have a guest today. It's Grok. Welcome, Grok.
Grok is in a-hole mode. Isn't that what they call it?
We've designed this intelligent agent to be an asshole. Well, welcome, asshole. Yeah.
Oh, that could be good. Okay, another one for the list. But truly comment. Let us know what you think, what you want to hear about. No topic not allowed. I don't think. Not an expert in neuroscience, but we could find somebody. I bet. Mayan Bialik, where are you at?
Thanks, y'all.
Let's hit him with the outro.